everybody, it's Maria from Still Dreaming Homestead, and I'm ready for our story tonight. Are you? We left off at a part yesterday that was very concerning. DJ was in a lot of trouble. Do you remember? He was up in a tree, and old Satchelfoot was at the bottom of the tree. And when DJ was climbing up, he accidentally hit the lever and emptied out all of the bullets that were in his gun. So he's up there pretty much in danger. So we'll just begin reading this right now. This is the last chapter of this book, but there'll be another one that continues this series. Okay, chapter 12. It's February 23rd, 2022. That's the date. Okay, danger at the Mad River Trap. So that's where DJ is now. DJ was so scared, his mouth was dry as dust. He glanced down at the bear's long, hooked claws and moved higher up the tree. DJ drew up his cork-soled boots as far as he could. He was trying to get his feet up away from that bear. At the same time, he held onto the empty rifle with one hand and the tree limb with the other. The boy tried to yell, but his voice wouldn't work. Besides, Paul was too far away to help. The outlaw's coarse black hide hung loosely on his body, like a little boy wearing his father's winter overcoat. That means that he was pretty scary. That's how come he's been going after people's farm animals called stock, because they're easier to catch than wild animals. The bear's swollen right lower jaw was the size of a cantaloupe. Boy, that's bigger than my hand. DJ could see why the bear had turned outlaw and mean. He had apparently been hit by a small caliber rifle bullet, which now was infected with meat bees. Those bloodsuckers looked like yellow jackets. The pain must have been maddening, just enough to make you go crazy. As the bear climbed the tree, his yellow tusk clicked vigorously. He stretched out his long neck, bringing the open jaw closer to the boy's feet. The tusk closed over the boot heel. Man, at the heel of his foot. DJ's voice suddenly returned. He cried, "Oh, Lord, help me, please." He hadn't planned on that prayer, but he meant it with everything in him. Suddenly, DJ's foot was free. Fearfully, he glanced down. The heel had been twisted sideways, but there was no blood. "Thanks," he whispered, his eyes flickering down to the bear. His head was tipped back, his nostrils quivering, wiggling. Whatever he smelled brought a terrible rumbling growl to his chest. As DJ watched, the bear scooted backward down the tree trunk. Silently, as a passing shadow, he padded into the brush and disappeared. DJ let his breath out and readjusted himself on the limb. The bear might come back. The boy looked at the shiny shells in the brown pine needles below him. "I've got to have those shells before he comes back," DJ thought. He glanced around. There was no sign of the bear or any other living thing. DJ started down for the shells. Then he stopped and turned his eyes towards the sky. "I'm sorry, Lord," he said softly. Really sorry. I doubted you when Mom died, but I won't doubt you any more." DJ's words stopped, but his thoughts leapt forward. Somehow it didn't seem as if he'd said enough. Then he remembered what Paul Stagg had said: things aren't always what they seem. Man looks on the outside, but God looks on the heart. In an instant, the boy was sure that the Lord was looking at his heart and knew that he meant every word. Everything spiritual in him had changed in that moment in time. A new thought struck him. What had the bear smelled? The hounds, tied with their chains behind the hill? Maybe Paul Stagg returning? The boy's eyes darted around the area. He saw the granite cliffs. Remember those walls of the mountain that went up very straight. The river, the steep canyon with walls thick with conifers. Those are the trees that stay green all year. And shadows from trees retreating from the morning sun. DJ heard the river gurgling as it rushed over the stones. He listened to the breeze in the treetops. Then he heard another sound. DJ's head swiveled towards the bear trap. Nell Abbas was just putting his pants after having waded in the river. The 14-year-old boy had placed his socks, boots, and rifle on the stone beside him. He reached for one sock, keeping his eye turned up the riverbank to the culvert trap. DJ started to yell a warning, but it was too late. The outlaw bear exploded from the brush about 100 feet from Nels. The bear viciously clicking tusks and short huffing sounds made Nels look around. When he saw the charging bear, Nels didn't reach for his boots or his rifle. He let out a squall and backed up, desperate for some kind of safety. From his tree, DJ yelled, "The trap! Run into the trap and hit the trigger!" Nell's eyes darted around, trying to locate DJ, but Nell's glance immediately returned to the bear rushing upon him. DJ realized Nels didn't understand that if he ran into the culvert and hit the trigger, both ends would drop down. The heavy iron bars would keep the bear out, just the same as they would have kept him in. "Oh Lord, show me what to do." DJ's words had barely exploded into the air before he was acting. He wasn't conscious of thinking. He didn't even realize he was thinking. He simply held tight to his rifle, swung his feet well out from the limb, and jumped. He landed hard, his knees buckling, but he kept the rifle up so the barrel wouldn't fill with dirt and possibly explode if he fired it. DJ snatched up one glistening brass shell from the pine needles. In one fast moment, he slid the cartridge into the chamber and slammed the bolt shut. At the same time, he leaped to his feet and threw the short-barreled weapon over his shoulder. He didn't have his feet well braced as he aimed at the ground a few feet in front of the charging bear. DJ didn't want to kill the bear. He just wanted to turn him away from Nels. DJ held his breath and squeezed the trigger. Boom! Since he wasn't well braced, standing real firm, the weapon's recoil, that's when you shoot a bullet and goes forward, it pushes that gun back a little bit, and that can hit you in the shoulder. Boom! It knocked the boy backward. He fell in the dry brown pine needles under his tree. Instantly, he sat up, fearfully looking towards Nels. He was just getting to his feet after having fallen over a bush. DJ also saw something else. The outlaw bear had turned from Nels and was charging straight at DJ. He scrambled into his hands and knees, desperately looking for his rifle. He saw it at once and snatched it up, lifting it so cleanly so dirt wouldn't get into the weapon. DJ started to grab for another shell, but out of the corner of his eye, he saw he couldn't even risk that time. The bear was almost upon him. The boy dropped the rifle and leapt up into the same tree trunk he'd been in just a few minutes before. He grabbed the first limb with both hands just as the bear's front paw, struck the boy's bottom left foot. "Oh, Lord!" The prayer exploded from DJ's lips as the force of the bear's blow broke DJ's grip with his left hand, so he wasn't even holding it now. The boy swung out and down. His right palm was torn by the rough bark, but DJ desperately clung to the limb with that hand. He tried to swing his feet back to the tree trunk to relieve the weight on his one bleeding hand, but it was too late. The bear's forepaw struck at DJ's dangling feet, but the blow never landed. It didn't actually hit his foot. In a single sharp bark sounded like a small caliber rifle going off. DJ's eyes flashed down. Then his throat nearly burst with a glad cry. "Hero!" The little hair-pulling bear dog was racing from the edge of the forest toward the bear. A string of wild, furious barking poured out of the little dog's mouth. DJ saw fresh scars on his rib area. The dog was so skinny he looked like sticks in a gunny sack or in a pillowcase. But the dog's brown eyes were aflame with excitement. His voice was strong and sharp, and it was obvious he was threatening to eat that bear all up. The outlaw dropped from the tree trunk and charged towards the oncoming dog, huffing and clicking his tusks. DJ swung his feet against the tree, braced himself enough to catch the limb with his left hand. He hung from both hands and yelled, "No, Hero! Run! No, run, Hero, run!" The little dog didn't seem to hear him. Dog and bear charged towards each other like a tricycle about to collide with a freight train. That's how little that dog was compared to that bear. For a moment, DJ watched the terrible scene. Then he saw the little dog stagger from weakness. The boy released his hands, landed hard in the pine needles, and scrambled for rifle and shells. DJ raised his eyes as the two animals seemed certain to smash into each other, but the little dog was now bear-wise. He skidded to a halt, sitting as far backward that he slid on the brown pine needles. Then the dog jumped sideways as the outlaw tried to stop, but the bear's great weight and his momentum, because he was going forward, wouldn't let him stop. Have you ever been running so hard, maybe downhill, that you couldn't stop when you tried to? That's what's happening to the outlaw bear. The outlaw's rush carried him past the little dog. Instantly, as the bear passed, the hair puller leaped up. With a ferocious growl, the dog grabbed a mouthful of bearskin near the short tail, and he held on. The outlaw roared, "Roar!" with pain, and he swung around, but the little dog had bounced away like a soap bubble. Barking joyously, his whole body vibrant with life, the dog raced off. The bear chased him with clicking tufts and with hoof, hoof sounds. DJ snatched up the rifle, but a glance showed him dry pine needles and dirt had fouled both the barrel and the chamber, so the gun had dirt in it. The gun probably would explode if fired. It would take time to clean it. DJ dropped the weapon again and ran towards Nell Abbess while calling to the dog, "No, Hero! Run! Run! Get away!" Hero again grabbed hold of the bear's tail. The bear roared and turned his great head back along his huge body. Huge jaws opened to crush the dog, but he let go his hold and zipped away, barking furiously. The bear followed him toward the river. DJ turned to Nels. The older boy was sitting up, shaking his head groggily. A small gash on the back of his head was bleeding freely. DJ leapt down beside Nels. "How bad are you hurt?" Nels felt the back of his head. "Hurts like thunder where I fell, but I've been hurt worse than this lots of times." "Then come on," DJ snapped, leaping to his feet. "That bear will be back. I've got to help my dog, but we need to get you to safety first." The mountain boy took a quick look. Bear and dog were out of sight of the brush, but DJ could hear the hair puller's sharp, loud barks. DJ could also hear his hounds. Apparently, they had either smelled or heard the bear. DJ knew they'd be trying to break their chains and join the fight, but DJ couldn't depend on that. Hero was now on his own. Nels was tottering uncertainly on his bare feet. Where are we going?" "Into the trap. Come on." "You crazy? I'm not going in there. It's our only chance. Here, let me help you. Put your arm over my shoulder and run with me. And when we get there, you bend over and scoot in that near end. I'll take the other end." "I told you I'm not going," DJ interrupted. "You want that bear to get you? Then do as I tell you. Be careful though. When you get inside, don't touch that trigger until I tell you." DJ helped the older boy crawl into the open end of the culvert. "Now just sit there," DJ ordered, starting to run alongside the galvanized trap. "Don't you touch anything, you hear?" In a moment, DJ had reached the other open end of the culvert and slid inside. "Thanks, Lord," he breathed and sucked his breath to call out, "Hero! Hero, come here, boy!" DJ tried to whistle, but his mouth was so dry from fear he couldn't get the pucker right. Nels exclaimed, "Oh, now I get it. We hit the trigger and both ends closed so the bear can't get us. My dad will have heard the shot and come. I'll hit the trigger." "No!" DJ's voice was so sharp the older boy jerked his hand back. "No!" DJ repeated. "We've got to wait until my dog gets in here too." "You crazy? That bear's right behind him." "I'm not going to let that bear get my dog. Don't you touch that trigger." DJ cupped his hands and called for the hair puller again. "Hero! Hero, come!" It was like yelling in a barrel, but the little dog heard. He burst from some brush and streaked for the track. But the hair puller was too weak from his recent wounds. He was slowing, staggering, about to fall. DJ knew the bear would come bursting through the brush any minute. DJ leapt out of the safety of the culvert trap and ran forward. Just as the bear smashed through the brush, DJ held out both hands to the tired little dog. "Jump! Jump!" With a happy, weak voice, the hair puller obeyed. DJ caught him and spun around. He ran hard, trying not to fall, and hearing the outlaw gaining with every step. Bears can run terribly fast, much faster than people. Still holding the dog in his arms, DJ dived head first through the open end of the trap. "Now, Nels, now!" Nels raised his foot and kicked the smelly trigger hard. That released the gates on both ends of the trap. The heavy iron bars smashed down with a loud clang. DJ crushed, just squeezed him so hard. The happy little hair puller to his chest and swung around just as the outlaw bear slammed hard into the bar, inches from DJ. For one terrible second, DJ thought the bars weren't going to hold. Then the bear bounced back and let out a squall of pain and frustration. DJ hugged the little dog that was happily licking his face with a slurping tongue. "Oh, Hero, you'll never know how glad I am to see you." The outlaw tried every way possible to get into the trap. He reached ugly hooked claws through the iron bars. The boys drew themselves up tight against the center, out of reach. In a little while, they heard Abbess and Paul Stagg shouting. In a few moments, the men ran into the opening on the opposite riverbank. DJ saw both men throw their heavy rifles to their shoulders. DJ yelled, "Don't shoot! We're safe inside the trap." The men lowered their weapons. Paul said, "You both in there?" "With my dog. We're safe. Don't shoot." Tinsley Abbess yelled, "But the bear will get away." "Let him go," DJ yelled through the bars. The culvert echoed with a hollow sound. "His life for ours, please." Nels pressed his face against the bars at the near end of the trap closest to the river. "The bear's going. Leave him be, Pa. Leave him be and come get us out of here." DJ held his breath as the professional hunter again lifted his rifle to his shoulder, the barrel following the outlaw bear, bounding uphill for cover. DJ saw Paul Stagg's big hand reach out and push the rifle away. DJ heard the big man's booming voice. "I think 2 boys' lives for 1 bear is more than a fair exchange." Tinsley Abbess lowered his weapon. "Guess you're right. Okay, let's get across this river and free those boys." Before noon the next morning, DJ rode in the front seat of Paul Stagg's borrowed pickup. It ground in low gear, climbing slowly up the logging road from Devil's Slide Canyon. The little hair puller was sleeping, weak and exhausted, but he was happy on the floorboard. Floorboard is the part where you put your feet on in your car or in your pickup. Hero's muzzle rested on the boy's boots. DJ turned and looked at the hounds and Zeke Zinnering's borrowed turn-in dog. They rode in a box in the back of the pickup. They hadn't been needed. DJ lifted his eyes to the culvert trap secured on the trailer, which bounced behind the pickup. Both iron barred doors were down and locked on the trap. Through the nearest barred door, the boy saw old Satchelfoot riding in the trap. The driver chuckled. "DJ, yesterday afternoon it sure didn't look like we'd catch the outlaw, yet there he is." If he was a regular bear, we still wouldn't have had him either. I'm sure glad you figured he might come back last night and had us reset the trap. Well, he's not afraid of people. I thought he might hurt so much from that sore jaw that he'd risk coming back where he'd smelled that bait yesterday afternoon. Probably figured it was easy food, like he's been getting around. Man, Kathy'll be glad to know we'll have a vet treat that sore jaw. When he's well, maybe Kathy could ride with us and take old Satchelfoot up to the high country and let him loose. I'm sure she'd love that, David, the lay preacher That's DJ's name is David. That's where the D comes from. The lay preacher looked at the side rearview mirror at the captured bear. That old bear came within inches of having things turn out differently. Yesterday, Abbas and his sons were gaining on old Satchelfoot when his hounds ran smack dab into a sow. Remember what a sow is? That's a female, a girl bear. Plain accident, her crossing the outlaw's trail when it was so hot. But the abbess had to shoot her to save the hounds. That gave old Satchelfoot a chance to escape and scare me and Nels half to death. But at least he and I had a place to hide from that bear. But you'd be in real trouble if you'd run into him in the brush while we were going to see those 2 shots we heard. Paul Stagg nodded. If it hadn't been for that, you'd have lost the reward money, for the abbess would have taken the outlaw for sure. The boy turned to look at the driver. That sure was mighty nice of Mr. Abbas to say he didn't have any claim to the bounty of that bear. It's all yours, DJ. Sort of Mr. Abbas' way of saying thanks for saving his son's life. I still think you should take half. After all, it was your idea to reset the trap and camp nearby last night. Just a hunch I had. DJ, not worth any money to me. Well, thanks again. And I'm thankful God answered my prayer in that tree. He always hears prayers we mean, DJ. The boy felt good inside. You were sure right a while back when you said things aren't always what they seem. We thought Hero, was afraid of bears, but he wasn't. I guess he changed. He was afraid, but he changed because he loved you more than he loved his own life, DJ. And Grandpa changed because he made his commitment to Jesus. And he changed me back there in that tree. Do you think there'll be singing and laughter in our house again, like before Mom died? I'm sure of it, DJ, and we'll keep on praying for your father, too. My wife and daughter are praying for him, and I know Mrs. Higgins is praying, too. The boy was thoughtful a moment. Then he thought of something else. Is there any chance we can stop and see where the abbess had to shoot that mother bear? If she had a cub hidden in a tree, it'll be mighty hungry by now. Oh, do you think that that's maybe something that's happening? Maybe. The giant's rumbling laughter erupted from his big chest. I didn't see any sign of a cub, but we'll go take a look. Anyway, say, what would you do if there was one? Take it home. Raise it like you did your cub. DJ, I doubt your dad would let you keep a cub, especially now that you're going to keep that hair-pulling bear dog. But we'll stop and just make sure. Thanks. DJ, there's something I've been meaning to tell you. Last night when I was leaving Stony Ridge for Sheep Iron Mountain, a Bible verse came to mind. Even stayed with me in my sleep. Was still there when I awoke to the sound of old Satchelfoot tripping that trap. Been too busy to talk about it until now. What verse was that? It's from Jeremiah 42:10. where God says, "If you will indeed stay in this land, then I will build you up and not tear you down. I will plant you and not uproot you." DJ swallowed hard. Does that mean you don't have to move away? It means I'll help Sheet Iron Mountain's church again. Then I'll be back. Kathy will go to school here, and we'll see all of you people grow up strong in the Lord. DJ let out a happy yell. Yahoo! Hero raised his head and looked at DJ, who bent down to pet him. Hey, now that I got my dog back, I could hardly wait to see what's going to happen next. The big man laughed. Me too, DJ. Me too. DJ didn't know it, but his next exciting adventure would start in a few more minutes. Just what happened to DJ, his family and friends, and especially the hair-pulling dog and a new unexpected pet, is told in the next exciting DJ Dylan's adventure book. And the name of that one is City Bears Adventures. City Bears. So that was the end of the hair-pulling bear dog. Tomorrow, we will start with chapter 1, City Bears Adventures. Hey, do you see what I see right here? Looks like a bear cub. Well, I look forward to reading this tomorrow. I want to remind you that I love you, and I'm so glad you're listening to these stories. So you have a good day or night, depends when you're listening to this, and may God always bless you. All right, good night.